This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
The following program is rated for mature audiences. It may contain adult language, adult situations, and frank safety discussions. The names and certain details have been changed to protect the safe and the unsafe. But believe me, every item in here is true. I can't believe we're coming up to our 50th episode. We started out this whole podcast thing, or show, with the question, what is safety? That was in one of our first episodes. And today, it's even more important than it was then, way back in March. We're getting to the point with the COVID-19 situation. They're talking about a Delta variant. I heard they're talking about a Lambda variant, and they got another variant. They got another name for it. When they start putting in names to these things in advance, you know we might have a problem here. I had declared a couple weeks ago that this pandemic is over. I did that on the Jay Allen Show. What did we mean by that? What did I mean by that? Real simple. It gets back to this idea, what is safety? Is it the absence of illness, or is it the presence of controls? And it really has to be something that we address in our society, in our workplaces, everything else. Because we understand that this thing is not going away, which is what I had predicted previously. It's going to be like the common flu, the common cold, any other number of illnesses out there. We'll have a corona season, we'll have a flu season, we'll have a cold season, what have you. So it gets back to the question, what is safe? If we're going to define safe as 0, we're never going to get there. It's never going to be safe outside. So what do? Do we hide at home? Do we not open things up? Do we not have anything else going on? We're going to stay in our houses, things of that nature. This is where the alternative definition to safety comes into play. Safety is the presence of controls. What kind of controls do we have? Number one, and I know this is controversial, we have the vaccinations, we have the masks, we have the social distancing, we have guards, we have temperature checks, we have screening, we have contact trace, we have many different controls thrown in there. Things of that nature, it's good. We have all those there. We're adding safety, we're adding more controls. Here's the other thing. What if in our regular society here, outside of the workplace, we have people who refuse, or it could be actually inside the workplace, people who refuse to get vaccinated, refuse to socially distance. Some of the projects I'm on, we have people even refusing to go through temperature checks. How do we manage those folks? Do we now become a two-part society here, where you have some type of, well, we have the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, and we're going to treat the unvaccinated this way as pariahs? Are they going to treat us, the vaccinated, as pariahs? Things of that nature. I think what needs to happen, and this is again controversial, is some type of direction, some kind of understanding, some type of what have you, what's going to happen if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Right now, every workplace, everybody's on their own. So half of the projects I know of, you got to be masked. Half of them, you don't have to. Some workplaces, you need to have the vaccination. Some places, you don't have to have the vaccination. But one thing's for sure, there's an added cost, no matter what it is you're doing. What kind of costs? Well, if someone gets sick in your workplace, there's a cost to that. If someone gets vaccinated, they have to be out for 3 or 4 days because of an adverse reaction, there's a cost to that. If they're going to be putting up guards and shields, there's a cost to that. There are costs to everything on every level here. And that has to you have to take that into account when you're planning, when you're paying for things, when you're setting up workspaces, even if you're planning an event of several thousand people. What are you going to accept? Is everyone going to be in a mask or guards? These are very, very difficult conversations. But I tell you what, you're better off having those conversations up front than ignoring them and putting them in the backs somewhere, putting them on the back burner. You got to go in there, and you have to face these things. Part of the safety war that we always talk about is confronting and having these difficult conversations in a professional manner. You don't have to go around yelling and screaming and pounding the desk and yell and scream and everything else. That's not what we're talking about. You have to have reasonable conversations. You have to get a feel of what the workforce wants to do. What will they accept? Will the workforce accept your procedure? Whether it's COVID or anything else. Because I've heard people say, hey, they mandate masks, I'm out of here, screw you. Well, guess what? There's an added cost. What are you willing to do? How are you going to manage people? What are you going to do to win this quote-unquote safety war that we're always talking about? Hard conversations. You have to decide what's safety and what isn't. with some reasonability and cool heads. For Safety Wars, this is Jim Polzel.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.